blowing it up.
Yeah, we're going to. So it is almost 7 o'clock, and so whenever you wish to start, Mr. Laurie,
It's
we,
7 o'clock on a Sunday night.
that sounds good.
So here we go. Why don't I begin with my usual? I think it's going to be 10 minutes and it turns into 25 minutes. And then I'll take questions, Roger and Gene, that you have from last week. And then we'll open it up to new questions. How does that sound?
Very good.
All right.
Yep.
You can hear me okay?
You're great at this end.
Good. I'm flanked by Mr. Corella and Mr. Graneri for technology and curriculum expertise. That's what they are, expertise. So I watched Governor Cuomo today, his 45-minute press conference, and I learned that he's going to take back up running, which is interesting. But more importantly, I learned in his opinion that this is the peak week for the coronavirus to hit the possible apex, and that he did not know if it was a pointed apex, which I doubt it would be, but who am I? I'm not even close to being Dr. Civaroli, or if it was a flatter kind of apex that plateaus for a while and then starts to drop. I do know that in looking at a model that Dr. Civaroli sent me about the northeast part of the country, it's doing much better in terms of their social distancing and the policies and everything they have. So that's really good. So this week looks like a peak week, and it's really important that we keep all of our social distancing practices in place. Roger and Gene, I wanted to thank you two guys for not only setting these webinars up, but also for your work in the web page design, teaching, tutorial mode. You've been a godsend along with Diane Spicone and all the people on Ray's team. So thank you guys very much. I wanted to tell all of the listeners, because I'm sure they have members in their family who are first responders or restaurant or retail people, which we can't forget their essential staff during this, to say thank you to our police, fire, ambulance, nurses, doctors, and all the people that keep the hospital propped up and working. They're really quite a godsend. And to our district staff, the cooks and assistant cooks, the safety officers, the custodians, administrators, and the lunch associates who have worked every day, I say thank you. We couldn't have done it without you guys, so I appreciate it. In terms of meals this week, we hit 65,000 on Friday, 65,064. It's a crazy number of meals. And I attribute that to a couple of things. One, Kevin Edwards has a very can-do attitude. Two, we're doing it 5 days a week. Most districts are only doing it 3 days. And number three, we're giving a double bag on Friday, and there were 868 delivered on Friday. So for all of those things, I say thank you. This week it's going to go Monday to Thursday. The double bag will be on Thursday. I wanted to hit something that I may have not been really clear on yesterday, especially this week when we are allowing some teachers on the schedule that their administrator laid out for them to enter the building to pick up materials for their webpage or materials that they need to do to complete their annual review. So the principals have laid out a very staggered schedule. I would like to reinforce that staff should follow that staggered schedule. It's for everyone's protection, for everyone's safety, and please adhere to that. Don't spend time at the copy machine. Don't stop to say hello to your neighbors. Don't stop to say hello to anyone in the office or the custodian who you'll find there. Just keep on moving. I said we have CDC guidelines for face masks. It should have been face coverings. If you're coming into a building and you want to wear a face covering, a bandana, some type of cloth, go ahead. No one's going to stop you. You don't need to wear a face mask or a face covering for that matter if you're going to stay 6 feet away from people. That's completely allowable. But we will have people entering schools staggered. Pick up your annual review stuff. Pick up your teaching stuff that you'll need to help post things to your web page on. I'll come back to that in a little bit. Next, I really need your adherence to this. Everybody that's on the call, we're up to 270. That's great. Please, please, please. There are so many phishing PH expeditions out there and spam grabs out there and people who it's hard for us to believe, because we're a pretty honest and open bunch, that are just trying to benefit off of the back of others. They'll offer you something for free. It will virus our computers, because you could step in it and bring it to home here in the school district. And then what they'll do is they'll shut all of our procedures and ransom us for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we just won't get any further, and we'll lose any progress and ground we've made. Most of these phishing expeditions look really tempting, super cool, very attractive to kids, very eye-popping and eye-catching. You've got to step back, take a breath, use what you have, use what we have, and step away. I read today, both in the Buffalo News and online, the districts that are banning Zoom. We kind of predicted this a couple of weeks ago. Zoom meetings are really best used for adult-to-adult conversations. I'm on a few committees and boards of directors outside the school district, and we're using Zoom meetings. That's how the superintendents are communicating with each other. It's probably a fine way for us to do it. It's not a great way to do it with your students because of the lack of filtering and blocking and so on and so forth. So I respect that. I'm not saying it's banned, but I'm asking you to use it appropriately when you're having adult-to-adult meetings. And there's just no getting around that. You don't want to be the one that has that Zoom interference with something inappropriate. You don't want to be that one that gets caught in a phishing expedition whereby you've contaminated yours and others' computers. And I know it's not intentional. It's out of the grace of your heart to try to get some more information to kids, but we just have to stay in our own backyard. So Ray, I'll give him credit, even though I'm going to steal it, made the term software distancing, meaning we've got to distance ourselves from that good-looking, maybe fun, eye-popping software that could get us in some real difficulty if it's not what it really says to be. Okay, I'll leave that there. The other question is, what can we use? What do we have? I know that on April 7th, which is Tuesday, your network links are going to be posted. I read very closely Mr. Corrella's Q&A. I love Q&As because it's always the same questions that I'm asking myself, and he pretty much nailed it with his Q&A. So if you haven't read that, I encourage you to read that and pay close attention. Ray, while I take a sip of water, is there anything that you want to offer on phishing and spam?
Yes, for phishing and spam, I mean to be dramatic. I don't need to, make this sound especially crazy, but I can tell you this week I worked with BOCES to kind of counteract. It's just not Niagara Falls. It was several other districts, Newfane, a few others, that we had to do things that I've never seen BOCES do for two reasons. First, it probably was a significant attack, and second, it's just the times we're in. So when you see something on email, if you could, just if you're not sure, just delete it. If it's really something important, you'll hear from them again. If you did open it, please do not click on any links or attachment, and in the bottom it says mark as spam. It could get a little frustrating because I do hear from a lot of people that says, well, I marked as spam, it's coming back. When you're spamming something, it's for that instance of email only. So you may find you mark something as spam and then you see it again, it's slightly different. But just do due diligence, throw some common sense at it. And again, if you're not sure, delete it. If it's really important, in some ways you'll see it again.
Yep, thanks, Ray. Couple more things, and don't want to hinder anybody's work. We have enough resources. We have enough support. We can't support those things, even if they turn out to be legitimate. we still can't offer the support that we would want to on that. So I throw that warning out there for the last time. Please be very, very cautious about that. Okay. We are, all of the report cards are in. Ray's got a few people, two in particular, that will be printing, processing, and mailing report cards this week. That's important, not only for grades, but that student ID numbers are on those report cards. When kids get stuck sometimes, that if some student reached out to you or a parent reached out to you, the ID number, if they need it, it's on their report card. Just getting back to a couple of other things before I get into some academic conversation. We're in the midst of all this, Ray is working with Ronco with respect to the phones at Hyde Park School. They were out on Friday, in on Saturday, out on Sunday. So they're being very temperamental. We're not sure why. We have a ticket in, which is a call to see what's going on there. It just seems a little bit up and down with the phone system at Hyde Park. So if you're a Hyde Park teacher or you know somebody who's hearing frustrations, the Hyde Park phones have been down. Just as an aside, I know 79th Street School staff, we never ever thought we'd get to any kind of ceiling tear down during this Easter, what was supposed to be Easter recess. Nothing is happening at 79th Street School. In your classrooms this week, they're hanging some hangers to put wires in the corridors. So 79th Street School staff, don't fret. But if you are in the school, please take everything that you need, because it looks like we're going to be able to do all 4 schools of work during this break in summer. More information coming out on that. I know the governor made a statement in order for us to get our 180-day waiver, which we will need, that he issued that we work these next 2 weeks. I understand collective bargaining agreements. I understand recesses and vacations and counting days to 187. It's not a conversation I can entertain this evening. We're going to just have to see how it plays out, and we'll work with your NFT union leaders if that becomes an issue down the line. But I am cognizant of it. The expectation is that everybody will be available during these 2 weeks to continue work. That's the expectation. So I appreciate your patience, and I'm not ignoring the fact that there is a 187-day calendar contractual agreement that I am aware of that. We're beginning annual reviews this week. That's great. We're going to try to connect as many people to parents. If a parent agrees, we'll go forward. If a parent doesn't agree, we'll hold it in abeyance and do it when we return. We looked this week, and there are about 320 annual reviews between March 13th and June 30th that have to be accomplished. I think now is the time to release that number and try to work at that. But I also would ask that you don't just make it a fait accompli and roll it forward, that you think about the annual review, you offer your opinions and suggestions, you really look at the goals and strategies and work and objectives on those, and you make them the living, useful, purposeful document they're supposed to be. Ray has worked on a loaner program. Let me tell you my priorities for loaner computers. They'll be with high school students first if we need to. They'll only come through the principals. I have to have some modicum of control on this. I want to start with high school students first. Ray's already worked with the high school team. It's not that we do not have laptops to give away or we can't configure them. It isn't even that we don't have hotspots now, because Ray's purchased some mobile hotspots. It's all about content filtering. And we just can't turn these laptops over and have a student say, go to work, turn your assignments in. He has to go through an arduous, lengthy, specific process with his team to get content filtering on the computers. So it's not that I'm trying to hold back some resource. It takes time. All right, but we are very cognizant of that. Let me just look, let me digress into one subject before we get probably to the meat of the matter. Okay, and that is the school district budget. Kind of just want to give you an update on this, kind of secondarily to this crisis in health is a budget. But it was tough. It was a tough week for us because we were promised, let me just tell you how it works. The governor in January 17th came out and promised us well, first, let me backtrack. I'm going to back all the way back so everybody understands the budget in the best terms I can share it. What I asked the finance staff to do is to take this year's program, everything that was running on February 15th, everything, okay? We had hired some new social workers. We had some new pre-K classes, even though those are paid for out of a grant. Take this year's program, take this year's people and roll it forward. Just pretend no one's retiring, no one's moving, everything comes forward, lift the budget, roll the program, all of the purchases forward and lift all the people and roll them forward. So when we do that, we're able to come up with a budget figure. It doesn't look pretty, but it is what it is because of our mantra that we don't need less, we can't afford to cut. So let's see what it looks like. It looks like we have a $6.2 million budget gap. Then we take a break and the governor comes in and says, I'm going to give you $1.8 million. Thanks. That's awesome. It drives that budget gap down to 4.4 million. I hope you're following my math here and I hope I'm right. 4.4 million. We say, thanks. We know the dance is always that the legislature goes back and they give us more money, especially small city school districts. Last year, they gave us $2 million more, so that 4.4 would have been 2.4. Well, this year, they said, no, the legislature isn't going to give you any money. And on top of that, the governor takes back the 1.8 that he was going to give you, bringing our budget gap to 6.2 if we roll the whole process forward. So that's not very good news. On top of that, the governor says, okay, get ready because next year we're going to look at the revenues because there is no state revenue happening right now. All that sales tax revenue that would need to occur from, you know why, from buying and purchasing has stopped. We were already in the hole a couple of billions as a state. So now the governor says, stop, no revenue. What I am putting in the legislation is an ability to cut the budget, the amount of aid I've given you 4 times during the next year, meaning that we have to be very cautious that we could get cut any one of the 3-month increments from the start of the year. Most popularly, it would be at the mid-year break at 6 months, which would be about January in our budget, January, February. So that's not good news. However, here's what I think is some good news. One, we can't, and during our board meeting last Thursday, we agreed we really can't raise taxes. We could raise taxes 3.74%, and that would drive that would gain us about $900,000. That's a nice amount of money, but I can't see putting a almost 4% tax increase on the taxpayers' back, many of whom in Niagara Falls are losing their jobs, not working, et cetera, et cetera. So that becomes a non-issue in my mind. It's funny, you hear about the 2% tax cap, but in our district, it's really 3.74 because of some crazy funding formula that's 42 pages long that you need to be you need to be an actuary to even start to understand the first page of the book. The bottom line is we're not going to raise taxes. I don't believe the board would ever do that. We have a $6.3 million budget gap. So here's where we are. Fortunately, we have some money in reserves. That's really fortunate. Secondly, we have to make lemonade out of the lemons of every week we go. We're not spending money on supplies, materials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. the direction was let's save as much as we can between now and July 1st. So hopefully we'll have a good carryover. And then are there other things that we could do next year to cut or eliminate without touching people or programs? And that's what we've been working on all weekend. And I want to keep everybody's spirits up. The intention is not to cut one live body, not that we have any dead bodies, but not to cut any person that's working or trim any major programs. Now we're going to have to make some tweaks to things. There's no way we can do this without tweaking and moving some things, but we're going to work very hard on that. Let me move away from that happy topic and go on to my last order of business before I ask Ray and Rick if they have anything, and then we'll open it up to questions. Let's talk about learning packets going forward, okay? The expectation is that the paper packets that we put out, over 30,000 pieces of paper, now all gone, they were to last us through this Friday or next Monday, which is I think it's the 13th. 3 weeks worth of reinforcement work only. That's why there's been such a heavy push on developing a web page, and many of them are so outstanding. I appreciate that very much. So outstanding. As a way to be a one-way communication tool for parents and students going forward. Now, despite the fact that some of you are surveying your students and know who does and doesn't have technology, the one thing that we cannot do, we cannot afford to do, time-wise, people power-wise, just common sense-wise, is produce the same number of printed packets again next week. It just can't happen, okay? So that just can't happen. That's why we have to use this opportunity as an opportunity to get better at our technology, me included, to use web pages, to use Office 365 Teams, to use district-approved software to communicate with parents. Having said that, I acknowledge the fact that in every class of 22, there are going to be 7 to 10 students that don't have access to technology. Therefore, there is going to be a very reduced number of packets printed for every student who doesn't have access to computers, and we'll make for you. I know you're saying, how will you know? How will you sign up? That's going to be our issue with the schools. We'll deal with the principals on that. We just can't duplicate everything again. We can't. So please be very clear in my direction here. That's why we're posting things to the web pages and to Office 365. We cannot make copious amounts of copying, but there will be an outlet for those 5 to 7 to 9 to 3 parents and kids in your class that need access, free and appropriate access to the materials you're putting forth. If you have things that require copying, the last thing I want you as staff to do is to go to a copy machine, stand there, make copies, touch a copy machine, have someone come behind you, even if you have gloves and 6 feet, and make tons of copies. For our safety and health, that's number one. Number two, we'll eventually tie up and could break a copy machine or two. We don't have the resources to fix those things, and we can't stop the process. So I am telling you, I guess, asking you, it says nicer to ask, that you to put anything that you need copying in the form of a PDF document. I'm looking at Rick and Ray here to make sure I'm saying this correctly. A PDF document that you're going to send to a Word document, a PDF that you're going to send to your administrators. Okay, and then from the administrators, we'll work with them to either make small amounts of copying in their building or forward that to central office where we have the bigger production copiers. Whew, that was a lot, but I want to emphasize that point. Emphasize that point. Not making copies. I don't know why I sounded like George Bush Sr. there, but yeah, no new taxes, not making more copies, not doing it, but yet we have to be free and appropriate to the kids that don't. So let me scan and look. I think that's everything in your reviews. I'm just looking here. I think we're good on all of my opening comments. Rick and Ray. Ray, anything? So, yeah, go ahead, Ray. Ray's got a software conversation going.
Yep, just very quickly, because I know there's been some confusion, and I just want to point out a few things that I hope will be helpful. Roger and Jean may follow on the screen, but it's not necessary. So one of the first things we did is Rick Corella, Melissa, myself sat down and put together a instructional software information sheet, which basically lists 10 in-district websites with links in appropriate grade levels and recommended session times, all through Clever. So it should make easy access. We tested it at home. I went in, between the three of us, we tested every site. So how would you get there? I know we've kind of given this information or shown it before, but it's off the COVID-19 website. It's under parent and student resources. I'll pick one of my favorite schools, which is Maple Avenue. And within there is the instructional software information sheet. Diane Spicone did a really good job of putting that in every location that you could think of. So I hope you've bumped into it by now. The second piece is the license software that we have. This is, it's kind of the same stuff we spoke about, but it's much more. PowerSchool, it's things like that. That's listed on our website as well under Departments, Technology and Information Services. On the left-hand side, you'll see a bunch of links that show what technology we're licensed from, administrative, classroom. So that should give you a really good perspective on the software we have that's licensed, paid for, supported, and consistent with curriculum. The third spot is where it can kind of get a little bit confusing because, as you saw today, we had Nearpod listed. That's a piece of software we're piloting. So not everyone may know that, same with vocabulary. Then there's other things we talked about, Remind last week, Khan Academy. These are kind of established programs that from established vendors that are very aware of Education Law 2D and how to secure their sites. And those again are something that I can't provide support for, or the department IS cannot provide support for, but they're available. Something I also want to add is that I've spoken to a couple of the technology committee members, and we're going to virtually start meeting to help us vet some of this new software.
That's good.
That's the process. It's not, believe me, it's not me sitting in my office here at central office. I am very fortunate to have a great group of people, a great cross-section of the district, administrators, principals, vice principals, TSAs, central office people, and that the main purpose of that committee is to vet software. That piece has been missing. Adventure helped me a little bit with high school calculators, some other people, some kind of the rush things, but I'm most comfortable when I can vet software through that committee because that's their job and they're very good at it. So that's going to help some things. The last thing I want to say is that just to kind of reiterate what the superintendent said, I know everyone is exceptionally trying to help, if that's the right way to say it. But in the past week, we've had instances where teachers again, trying to help or other people working with something they found on the internet, and the people that are running that software and arranging for pilots and sending out links to their schools, that's where we're going to probably get ourselves in trouble. So that's all for me.
Thanks, Ray. Two points of reinforcement here. One is, yes, the technology committee will meet virtually this week. I'm asking Ray and any members of the technology committee who are listening, get ready for an Office 365 meeting. That way we're not just sitting on, well, this is our software and nothing else is coming. If we have something new, get the name of it, the description to it, to a technology committee member. I know Mr. Weiss will help in doing that so we can vet it. Number two, what should a teacher be doing right now? If I was a teacher out there listening, what should I be doing? Let me just finish my diatribe here with what should I be doing? The first thing we want you to be doing if you're a teacher out there is taking care of yourself and your family. That's the first thing. We need everybody healthy. We need everybody back when the time comes. The second thing that you should be doing, most importantly, connecting with students. How you connect using the appropriate technology and phone means. Connect with students, especially those who need you now more than ever. Kids want to be in school as much as you might think that's a schmaltzy comment I find more want to be than don't. Connect with your students. 3, make sure you've solidified your understanding, learning, and development of your web page or two-way communication system through Office 365 and teacher web pages. Solidify that. Have that ready. Get that together so that next Monday we can have the big unveil. Number 4 or 5, I lost track here, my own count. What you don't need to be doing, what you need to be doing, I'm sorry, is sending any material in a Word document or PDF document to your administrators. Some of you have 1 principal, some of you have 4 total. So I would suggest you send it to both administrators, a single administrator, or all administrators in the case of the high school. Let them deal with it and to define who's going to do what from there. What you don't have to be doing is making copies of things. You do not need to make copies of anything. You need to have a Word document, a PDF file, and you need to send that to your administrator, where we will have an Office 365 meeting with them and help them get through that process. I think that's it for now. All right. And here comes Mr. Corella with some questions and comments. Yep, here we go.
I just had a couple of comments, a couple of quick ones.
Thank you, Rick.
I wanted to address a few things. First, for elementary teachers in grades pre-K through 6, you know that the instructional coaches have been working on a notebook in OneNote for each grade level that has resources in it for you to pick from and possibly use on your webpage. They're not mandated resources, but they're curated is the term that I like to use. They've been looking very carefully at our state standards, where we should be right now at the 40-week marking period, and what our students might need. So rather than teachers just feeling overwhelmed and feeling that they have to very, very quickly assemble a lot of resources all at once, we thought it made sense to make this type of a repository and continually add to it. Ed Maynard did a great job of making the landing page for us. It looks terrific. On Tuesday, Ed is going to send to each of the elementary schools a grade by grade level list with a link for each grade level to go into the notebook for your grade level. Each notebook page is tabbed by subject, so you can go in and grab different things for your web page. Also, those tabs will include physical education, music, art, social studies, and science. I sent out a tentative schedule that could be something someone could adopt to kind of organize their work Monday through Friday and communicate to parents what kids could be doing on any given day. It's not mandated, but it's something that people should look at. That brings me to the next point, which is the web pages for elementary versus the secondary levels. They're slightly different, and I want to explain the rationale behind it, because we did not encourage special area teachers such as art and music to create their own web pages at the elementary level. And some questioned why. It's not that we don't value the work or what you have to contribute. What we wanted to do was to keep it as simple as possible for our youngest learners. Older kids would have no trouble naming off all 5 or 6 teachers on their schedule and visiting all of their sites. But that's a lot to ask for an elementary kid. So we wanted to keep it much simpler. And so what we're doing at that grade level is John Briglio is working with the physical education teachers to select lesson plans and activities for each grade level. And Leah Baldessari is working with art and music. Ronnie McGrath is supplying science activities and do-at-home lessons for the kids. So again, I just want to stress that it's not that we don't value what our teachers could use their own web pages for. And I told several, go ahead and make your own web pages because they'll serve you well in the future. But we really want the classroom teacher to be linking those lessons from the notebook onto their own webpage to make it simpler for the younger kids. And when you're posting your work, folks, Mark spoke about making sure that we are doing minimal copying. One really important way to do that is when you're creating assignments, try to make them assignments that kids could complete on a sheet of loose leaf paper or in a notebook. So you may have directions, readings, and prompts on a document, but a student wouldn't necessarily have to have that document in hard copy in front of them. They could look at it on the computer screen or on a smartphone and do the activity on their own in pencil and paper. So I know we've been stressing to folks to try to think of it that way, and that will hopefully minimize the amount of copying that we'll have to do. And I think that is it. I think that's it for me for the time being, Mark.
Thanks, Rick. A couple of final things. I know I keep saying final 20 times. That's not my phone either. That's Ray's. So he gets more text than anyone now. A couple of things that I know and don't know. The Board of Regents is meeting Monday and Tuesday, tomorrow and Tuesday. They're supposed to give us a status report on the Regents exams on Tuesday. So I'll be sure to blast that out in every form that we get. That's coming up on Tuesday. Secondly, I do not know about prom, graduation, class day. Don't have a decision. Too early to make a decision. The only thing I could tell you is that we got great response from the city's illumination committee, as well as the mayor and the parks, that on graduation weekend, 26th, 27th, 28th of June, they'll light the falls blue and gold for our senior class. And it came as a suggestion. I wish I would have been so smart to think of that. Came as a really great, productive, progressive, thoughtful suggestion that I appreciated. Within 12 hours, we were able to get everyone to agree. So at least we are knowing that the city will come together, and hopefully we'll be able to all be down there to see it. But otherwise, I do not have any information on those issues. Regents, graduation, prom, post-prom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, concerts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know that with respect to sports, April 27th, still about 3 weeks away, remains the deadline to make a decision for spring sports. Okay, Roger and Gene, have at it. What do you got?
Well, I'll lead off. And we're just going, these are pretty much in order that we've received them, earliest to the most recent. Question, what will happen to the 7 to 10 students that do not have internet access at my school, that cannot get to the school to get the packets? We are not a neighborhood school.
We will have someone deliver them. We'll get the addresses of those kids, and we have a tremendous crew of people who have behind the scenes been delivering lunches and delivering other things that these families need. I don't have all of the addresses, but if that becomes an untenable situation for a family, we'll have them in a large brown manila envelope. We'll have the address and the name, and we'll leave it on the porch and run. No, we won't run. I was kidding. I'm kidding about the running. We'll leave it on the porch and walk away. And again, that's a job that we've been offered. So many people have offered to do that. People like our grounds crew and Mark Barone, our driver, have used up a lot of gas going through the city to deliver things. So we'll deliver them. Next.
From a teacher at high school, I believe it is. I already have my next unit of copies made and in my room. I just need access to my room so I can organize the material for my students that do not have a computer or internet access. Will it be possible for me to get in the building and organize these copies?
The principal sent out a schedule. And if you have those materials, I'd ask you to send them to the principal in a Word or PDF form, and they'll send them out. I don't have all the school schedules. I know that they're allowing access through Wednesday, I believe, at the high school. It might be Tuesday, and I don't have the schedule in front of me. But yep, that schedule was posted, and just go at the time. I think we did it. She did it by department, and then some. Then just because the phys ed area was really a crowded area where people share offices and things together, they broke up those departments that had crowded, possible lack of social distancing, and included maybe phys ed teachers 2 a day with the regular departments. Really, really, really want to stress that you've got to get those documents to your administrator in PDF or Word. Next.
Just to clarify this, and a follow-up, 2 questions in a row from the same person. Just to clarify, should we survey or ask our families and see what they have available for computer internet access, then only make copies for the few? Otherwise, everything else is on the web page. Or, I mean, make a packet available to school for them to copy and get to parents.
Yeah, I only want administrators to handle the copying through us. If you know of families, that's gonna, I mean, as a high school teacher, those high school teachers have 125, 130 kids. That's a heavy lift. If you have a survey already, and I know you've been maybe doing that work, and you know who they are, share those names with your administrators. Share the names, share the names with the administrators, share the names with the families so that they can make the packets, and we'll go along with that. But that's a big lift. That is just a tremendous amount of work, and I appreciate that. That's like working in a perfect world to know. And, you know, one of the things that I should have done before this, talk about being unprepared, is I should have, you know, had some type of form or survey done that says, yes, you have internet access at home, or no, you don't. And I learned my lesson here, and everybody's going to have to pick up for my failure to have that information. But it's a good lesson to learn. So next.
Yeah, just one moment. Have you noticed the number of attendees, Mr. Laurie?
Record-breaking, 304. A late arriving, record-breaking crowd here on the Amy Rogers Show. Awesome. 3 weeks in a row over 300. It's like they come late to the Dodgers and Lakers games, but they show up.
Okay. Hey, Raj, there have been some questions sent in on the registration report. Do you want to go over those? There's just a couple real quickly.
Go ahead. You have that.
I'm going to have to end my show and bring this up, Mr. Laurie, if you don't mind. There were some questions that were given to us when the people registered, and let's see if I can find them. Okay, you can probably see them, and you've answered a few of them already. Is there any update on Regents exams? Okay.
No, Tuesday.
Yeah, you've answered that. When does New Learning officially start? In other words,
April 13th. April 13th.
April 13th. Now, can we have a tutorial on Microsoft 365 Class Notebook?
Yeah, or Class Notebook, or Gray?
That'll be next. Right now we're going through Teams. We're planning on follow-up webinars, training sessions for teacher web pages and Office 365 as well, once we get past the out of the gate ones.
Okay, real quickly, do we have any idea when we might be going back to work?
No.
Don't we wish tomorrow?
I know. I just sorry, everybody. I don't really like it either. I've completed Netflix, and I watched I keep calling him the Lion King, but I watched the Tiger King too.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
That's where I'm at night.
Yeah.
That's not good. It's not good. I tried. Okay, I won't do the movie thing because I got criticized by somebody who doesn't know how to reply to one person. I've been watching bad movies too. Ridiculously stupid movies.
So. Yeah. And you know what? Today I got one on my screen that says you've reached the end of the internet. That was scary.
Nice.
Yeah, it was scary. Anyhow, what is the plan for students enrolled in the Twilight program?
We talked to the high school team about that, and we are going to, I'm trying to remember here. We're going to help with activities around the Twilight curriculum and Apex and the other platforms that they were working off of.
I think that they're looking
AI Tutor
at
and Apex.
continuing it
Yeah.
virtually. Yeah.
Yeah, continual work virtually, Apex, maybe iTutor, but we have to graduate those students and others that aren't in the class. Yeah, can't forget. I kind of forgot. Don't forget, we've got kids on home teaching too, medical home teaching, administrative home teaching. They're all our kids. They're all our kids. Twilight kids. They're going to keep with the same approved protocols of Apex, iTutor, and their own brand of good instruction. Next.
Okay, well, the next one I think is one Roger and I can answer. How are web pages made when you have a co-teaching classroom? If you'll email that to either Roger or me, we can take care of that real quickly. This one might be for Ray. What websites, platforms are we encouraged to use on our teacher websites for teaching content?
Again, I would really reference the instructional information, instructional software information sheet. I'll just read them off quick. Achieve 3000, the Brain Pop Suites, Castle Learning, Mobimax, Reading Plus, and SmartAnt. So these are the ones that are identified for easy access. They go through Clever, just requires student ID. One of the reasons the superintendent was mentioning that yesterday. And then again, reference the Department of Information and Technology Services. That'll list all the paid and subscribed for. So that's the easy answer where you can link to those and hopefully that'll be enough to provide some good instruction.
Okay, and you said that we should maybe post that sheet so to make it easier for teachers to get to?
Well, it's landed on a bunch of different spots. That's why I hesitated to it, because I don't want to start, just kind of buckshotting the website. Specific spots.
Okay.
So we can talk again, and I really want to try to make this successful. So we'll figure something out.
Okay. Can we mail and send materials home to our students, or do we have to have it okayed first?
I would assume that instructional materials. I want to keep it through one process. They go to your principal. I have to have a modicum of control here, and I try to be inclusive in all my thinking and decision making, but this isn't a normal situation, and I've got to have a modicum of control and support. So if it's instructional material, not that I don't think you're doing good instructional work, but I don't want mixed messages going out from different pockets or areas of the school district. That puts one person against another person, that gets us off the train track, so to speak. So I really have to force the issue to stay in the lane of the principal and then the web page. Okay.
This one I'm not sure. I think you've more or less dealt with it. It says, who do our teachers suppose to send their hard copy packets, and by what date so copies can be available for the 13th?
No later than Thursday.
Yeah, no later than this Thursday.
Okay.
It's going to take some work to do that. We'll be working all weekend. They'll be, really, asking you to get on that early part of this week. Get it to your administrators. Again, we cannot let the perfect get in the way of the very good. Okay, we always want to be perfect and excel, but the very good sometimes we'll have to do in very abnormal circumstances. So the perfect cannot get in the way of the very good here.
Okay, last, what is going to be required of us to prepare for our special ed students who need much more differentiated instruction?
The hardest question to answer. It's the hardest question for me to answer. Mm-hmm. We have an obligation to expose our students to their grade level curriculum and the grade level standards. From there, you have to work with your class, your special ed class. If it's a self-contained class, it's a little easier. If it's a co-teaching class or a consultant teaching class, you really need to be in touch with your partner and work together to see what is the assignment and how could we modify it. That may mean fewer problems. That may mean problem at a different level. That may mean a different way of asking kids to think about it. It's hard to get into the modality discussion when we're just giving kids things one way, visually, even auditorially, they can hear things. That may mean, calling them. It's the hardest question. It's the most difficult one to answer, and there's no good, solid, strong answer, or would have been put out there already. It's a know your kids, feel the work that you have to do, work through it to give the best adaptations and modifications you can. It's oversimplified, but the only answer I have.
Okay, real quick, we'll get back now, I guess, to the regular questions. And I thought there were two here for Ray. Question for Ray: can we save the student login guide and add it to our web page?
I don't see why not. I try to think around things, and why would that not be helpful? I can't come up with anything why it wouldn't be helpful.
Okay.
So yeah, and I asked Ray to pause there because he's got to think of every nefarious thing that could happen if that happens. So, if that answer changes because someone said, hey, this could happen, you got to give them a pass, but it's a good idea. So let me just say something back on the special ed question. I know there's a lot of talk out there, well, this is, going to replace teachers. The special ed question alone and the statement that I can't give a good solid, no one can give a good solid answer, or I'd steal it from them, shows the power and the need for teachers and teachers in person with kids. There's no better way to say how this is a reaction to a crisis. And the crisis is we can't get in front of kids. So you have to do your best. Next.
Raj, why don't you pick up there, okay?
Okay, it's a revisit to the Zoom response. I hate to bother you. Person says, but I'm just a little confused. Are we no longer to use Zoom? Originally, it was an approved platform.
It's approved to, okay, I'll be real clear because I'm sure I wasn't before. The questions are never a bother. It's a good question to ask because it tells me that I wasn't clear enough. I am strongly urging you to only use Zoom for adult-to-adult conversations, meaning that if you're going to talk to your co-teacher, you're going to talk to your administrator. Ray's having a technology committee meeting on Zoom. I'm going to meet with the high school principals. I'm going to meet for adult-to-adult interaction. To put a class on Zoom is not what we want. Why? Because of two reasons. We have no control over the filtering of who can cut in, cut out, and something crazy or stupid could be posted there. And secondly, I guess it's possible, but I can't believe in any one of anybody's class, everyone has the same access. And I'm sure it's possible. You might have a class with 12 kids for some specialty course or at the high school or something. I'm sure it's possible, but I am not going to let that exception deviate from my statement that no, you shouldn't be meeting with kids on Zoom. Then the first rule applies. There's no way to filter out the bad things that could happen. The second reason is because you can't offer a free and appropriate public education. So if you can do number two, you can't do number one. So Zoom is an approved program for adult, teacher to teacher, teacher to administrator, administrator to administrator, superintendent to teacher, whatever adult mechanism you can think of, that's where it's for. And I say that with emphasis because I want to be very clear about it.
Another question, do we need to tell students who will be getting the packets to send them back to school for feedback? Will there be a district-wide procedure for that?
Yeah, I think that there's no use in doing a packet and doing it wrong. There's no use in doing an assignment and doing it wrong, just to say we did it. The purpose of education and the way we learn is and what teachers' jobs are to do is to give meaningful feedback. Now, I was going to throw the word immediate in there, but that's nearly impossible. So yeah, students should be told, save their packets. We'll either ask them to drop them off and we'll get them to teachers or hold them till we return. It's a real hard question because You don't want a kid doing a number of things wrong, and never getting the correction for it. That may be reinforcement for learning the wrong way. But yeah, I do want kids to know that we will look at these.
Okay.
When, how, and how we'll give feedback is a bridge we'll have to build as we walk across it.
Somebody adds on to that, will the paper packets be safe when they're returned to us?
Yeah, I hope so, but I can't promise
Yeah,
that.
that's
So if somebody's going to turn a packet back, I would have a bin by the entranceway. I would ask somebody to family drop it in the bin. We're not going to go running and picking it up that day. We know that some of these microorganisms or germs live from 3 days to 2 weeks. We'll have somebody at some point with gloves pick them up and open them up and do the best we can. I can't. Dr. Civaroli will probably weigh in on that more, but I can't answer that right now. But I don't want the notion out there that we're making paper and we're doing websites and not turning them in or looking at them. Yet I can't discount the health factor. So again, a bridge as we walk across it.
Additional question about the classroom associates. Are they going to continue to be paid?
Yes, the classroom associates will be paid. The classroom associates are paid on their regular schedule. And I don't, Ms. Massaro is not with me tonight, but I know there are some days that they're in their contract that I don't know like I should. There are some days over the Easter recess they're paid for. They will be paid. If they come in during that time and do work, they will be paid. Those are hourly employees, and their contract is different, but we will follow it and honor it accordingly over the next 2 weeks and beyond. And we've paid associates up to this point. We've even paid sub-associates up to this point. Now, I don't want to venture down this track again because it got a little confusing last week when I talked about unemployment. But in many cases, people have chosen to take the unemployment route and they've done better financially. So I'm not venturing that way tonight. But yes, if associates by contract are paid over the Easter break, I believe it's a couple of days they'll be paid. If they come in to do extra work for us on days when they're not to be paid, they'll be paid for those hours.
okay. How would an incomplete and 40-week grade work? Incompletes have always had to be resolved by the end of 40 weeks.
It can't stand. We can't stand it. We'll have to have direction to change that incomplete after 40 weeks. We can't leave an eye. We can't leave an eye on a report card or a transcript in the final grade. We'll have to make a judgment dependent on if we return or not.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
Frederick, yeah.
Well, I can just answer that quickly. I don't have a definitive answer, but in my FAQ document I sent to the elementary teachers, and I think that, well, I know that each level has their own. We don't have a district policy for that right now because we don't know what the duration of the closure is going to be. Once we know that, there are several different models that we've been researching to resolve grades at the end of the year. What we'll do is once we know when our end date is, then we'll review some possibilities and we'll make some recommendations to the superintendent, who will then in turn give his directives to staff.
Right.
There's more than one way to do it. There are several good models out there from districts in states that have already called the entire school year, which is not what's happening here in New York. But we've already I've seen circulated on some listservs that I'm on some possibilities.
Yeah. Some states have called the year. California, I don't know, Kansas, Virginia. I know I have a friend who's got a friend in Virginia. She's a math teacher. They called the year. We'll look at what's codified there. We'll see if it applies to us. We will not let an eye stand on a high school transcript. We won't do that. We'll work with the teacher and the administrator, the teacher mainly, because they're responsible for giving grades, not the principal. Or yeah, and that's a good point, Rick. Rick's saying state ed may give us guidance on that too.
especially if they do.
So I've heard a couple of models about the Regents exam and how class grades could or could not count for the Regents exam. I don't want to go down that road yet because I want to hold out all hope that we're going to return, even though each day and each week it gets less likely. And then we'll have to give you an FAQ on grading, FAQ on incompletes. We're just not there yet.
Mhm. Okay, just to let you know, we have quite a few questions left.
Great. Great.
How shall I respond to a student who has told me they will not be able to do any work, don't have the equipment to do online class, nor the time?
Well, I guess the question would be, what if we had school? How would you respond? You know, I guess, first of all, I would give that name to your administrator,
Mhm.
and let the administrator have a phone conversation with the parent. The first thing that I would ask an administrator to say is, what is it that we can do to help you with the situation? And we can go down a litany of options. And if they choose none of the options, we'll make a choice then. Next.
Raj?
Are we still only providing instruction for reinforcement? Or are we supposed to be giving new material that would normally be taught in the 40-week grade period? And will
Up
it be graded?
through April 13th, it's reinforcement, that first round of packets, all reinforcement stuff. April 13th, you can move forward. You have to move forward. Yeah, there's no reason to keep reinforcing things. We got to move forward. We have an obligation to move forward. Again, with the understanding that the very good won't get in the way of the perfect. It will not replace your direct classroom instruction as if 25 kids were in front of you. Do the best you can. Next.
I understand that YouTube is the easiest way to upload video recordings on our webpage. Is there any other way as this does present a risk, or does this present a risk?
Well, I'll say we at central office, and again, kind of in the administrative context, have been using YouTube for the superintendent's presentation. I know it has its use at school levels as well, but yes, it's kind of in the same context as Zoom. It's very difficult to monitor. And it's impossible to monitor some content that's live, and especially we don't have control of the environment. So that's a tough one.
Yep, tough.
Okay.
So what do we say? No?
Well, again, from an administrative standpoint, we are using YouTube here. I know that I would say use it responsibly at the school level to try to maintain a classroom instruction. I certainly wouldn't endorse that. But that's a tough one. And again, this is all new ground here for us.
What's flip classroom? What is it?
I know.
I'm having, excuse me, Roger and Gene, I'm having a sidebar with Ray and Rick about flip classrooms.
It's controlled software.
That's controlled software, okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I never had a flip classroom.
Yeah.
I know, Gene, you can back me up on this. I'm not
Mhm.
100%. When we record these webinars and post them on the district website, we do it not via a link. We actually embed the video.
Right.
And I think that makes it a safer venture. And it's
Mhm.
obviously we
Right.
do it within the context of using Blackboard here, and that could be something. Because we've gotten a number of requests. I've got emails for
Mhm. Yes.
people who want to do things, phys ed teachers and things that
Yeah.
encounter and require the YouTube, but it can be actually embedded rather than just simply linked to, which takes you to the page and you see all the other collateral damage, so to speak, on a
Yeah.
YouTube site.
And it's very easy to learn. The teachers could learn how to do it in a matter of minutes, actually.
And it's a good point that what we do here, we have district accounts, and I know schools have
Mhm.
accounts. So that's it's a governing piece in itself. And Software Institute, Facebook, YouTube, they also have their own governing pieces that will help content in a way. But in general, I just don't know if there's a way, someone maybe can help me, but to try to monitor or content filter video-based and all the surroundings behind you, I could not enforce that.
Sure.
Thanks, next.
Okay. Raj?
How Go ahead. I'm sorry. How should we handle goals and progress monitoring for students? I think that students with
For
IEP.
students with an IEP. I believe this person was talking about students with IEPs.
I can't progress monitor until the kids.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to progress monitor until the child is in front of you. That's number one. Goals are what you're working towards in your lessons. And you're right. So annual review is to put goals for next year. So as you write goals for next year's IEP, assume we're going to be in school. We can't progress monitor virtually, and we can't do that right now. But as you think forward, if it's an annual review that you're thinking about, think forward as to what it should look like being in school in September.
Okay. Can we get directions for students to log into their Office 365 accounts so they can access Microsoft Word to be able to submit Word, writing assignments, etc.?
Yep, we actually have some of that in place. And I think this is, yeah, we have 4 webinars coming up. We've had webinars previously. I think we're in a good spot with teachers that either had used Office 365 in the past or started it during this school year, because a lot of that, not training really, but exposure and how to do things, they probably figured out by now. What we talked about, and was a concern, but it wasn't that big of a concern that we didn't want to move forward with new Office 365 users, is that kind of concept. Now, for the first time, some teachers are using how to use Office 365, and I'm glad, because I think it's a great collaborative tool, but that back and forth experience that was in the classroom is just not there. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but within those webinars they're getting instructions, and it's a fairly straightforward process that we can reinforce once we find a good landing spot on the website.
Raj?
I'm not sure of the full context of this question. Could we please share information for teachers, for example, grading with teachers before a call goes to parents? And I'm not sure what the full context is.
Yes, we will. Probably, I think the call must refer to how we're going to grade going forward. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Can administrators give out Journeys books to children who can't get them online?
No.
Okay.
Do the packets have to be resent weekly, or can we supply a few weeks worth of assignments at a time? It seems like it would be less work for the administrator to do these packets bi-weekly.
Let's make an agreement that we'll put out. I'll ask Rick to put this out tomorrow. Let's make an agreement no more than 2 weeks. Okay? For lots of reasons. First of all, the question's a good one. I appreciate the work, that the burden we're putting on teachers and administrators. So I'd like to make an uninformed, give you an uninformed directive that it's 2 weeks. Okay? And I know not everybody's on this webinar, so I'll ask Rick to communicate that to principals and staff tomorrow.
Okay.
Next.
I have a question regarding Microsoft Teams. What if your classes are not correct in Teams? This teacher seems to be missing a class.
Yep. So we've been kind of addressing that a lot on Friday. There's potentially some tweaking that has to happen in order for classes to materialize or show on the Office 365 side. What I can tell you is there's a direct sync or connection between PowerSchool and Office 365. So if you do see you're having issues, please do me a favor. You can email Melissa Cacciatore within the Information Services Department, is the point person that's been taking this on. If you could email her directly, of course you copy me, please, just in case I can help Melissa. That's the best way to get that resolved. And I can tell you on Friday, we gained a lot of ground on this, but there is potentially some tweaking that has to happen.
Okay. Should music teachers be providing materials to copy? It's very difficult to provide pencil paper activities for younger students.
It all depends on the activity that's up.
Yeah, Rick is chiming in. He's right. It depends on the activity.
Yeah.
hard for me to answer that. It's hard for us to answer that. You know, I mean, are you teaching them how to read music? Are you singing a song? I mean, that's a really hard question. Are you teaching them to have different notes or falsetto or whatever? I'm sorry, I don't know the terms.
They
But
should really choose activities that don't require.
yeah, let's, right. Rick said it. I'll repeat what he said. Let's choose activities that don't require, that can be done that way. Okay.
As a parent of a child with disabilities, what will be done for speech, hearing, and occupational therapy?
Our speech teachers are putting together, again, just like everyone else, packets of information to share. Occupational and physical therapy will have to compensate when we return to school. That's my best answer. Sorry to the parent. I'm really sorry that I don't have a better answer for the occupational PTOT people, but it's the truth. So we'll have to do some compensation when we return. Speech should be coming out in packets.
Can I send letters to my students with their passwords for the sites on my webpage?
Can you?
Well,
Dave, go ahead.
it depends on the site, because a lot of things are different, but again, that instructional software information sheet, one of the reasons why we selected those programs, because they were effective and they also go through Clever, which really requires the student ID as a entry point. And one of the reasons why the superintendent was mentioning that when he was talking about the report cards, because that's the easiest way to gain entry. So it's a question that could have many answers, but hopefully at least a good starting point is the instructional software information sheet, which is delivered by Clever, which is really the easiest way to gain access.
Any idea if summer school is still a possibility?
Yeah, yes, there is. It is a possibility, but it's too early to say it's a go. So I have to think really hard around summer school. First of all, it depends on social distancing, the virus, health concerns, and where we land on that. I'd like to have elementary summer school, but again, there's no way we're going to make up 3 months worth of work and accommodate 4,000 kids that could attend. There's just no way. It's not possible. What gives me some relief is we don't have to make it up for elementary kids. We'll have 8 years, 7 years, 6 years to try to do our best to catch up, which will happen over the course of time. It really begs the question about how we will come out of this with differentiated instruction, because quite frankly, some students will get it more at home than others, and that's a reality. So the reality will be, how are we going to differentiate when we return? And 19 to 24 summer days, if we are allowed to, certainly isn't going to make it up. It's not going to hurt, but it's not going to make it up. If we aren't allowed to have, I mean, allowed in the sense that the virus hasn't stopped its spread, I've thought very hard about having transition to school return camps, which might be 2-3 days at a time closer to the start of September, which will do a couple of things. It will get kids acclimated to school in short bursts, get them in rituals and routines. It won't bring everybody back at one time. It will allow students to have a soft transition back into classes. That's a building block that we'll have to put together as the year goes.
Okay. I teach in a co-teaching classroom. My consultant teacher was told that she was not allowed to make her own packet to send home with differentiated work. Is this true?
You teach in a co-teaching classroom, and somebody wasn't allowed
My
to make
consultant teacher was told she was not allowed to make her own packet to send home with differentiated work.
Well, she shouldn't be making the packet, but she could differentiate and modify the work and post it. So whoever told her that, it wasn't me, and looking at Rick, was it you? It wasn't me or Rick that said that. So the answer is that's not true.
Without the context.
I need more, yeah, again, I need more
Yeah.
context to the question.
Yeah.
But no, that's what we want. But not to make your own packet and mail it home. to send that a link on so that we can make those packets for you.
Okay, maybe the teacher can get in touch with Mr. Corella for more info.
Yeah, or their principal.
Or their principal, yes.
Really, because that's where this answer lies.
Okay, thank you. Raj?
You're welcome.
What will happen if the capital projects go through at 79th Street? Will we be able to go in and pack up our class at the end of the year if we don't go back to school?
Yeah, the two answers to that. You'll have two choices. The whole classroom? No, they'll have a chance to go in on a staggered schedule and pack up if we don't get back to the end of the year. And if they're just taking ceiling tiles down, if we get that far, we'll let you go in for a couple of hours. If you want to pack up, if you don't, we'll have a professional come in and pack your room. And I'll give the teacher that option, as we did at the other schools. So either in 2 or 3 weeks, if we have to, we'll allow you time to pack up, or at the end of the year we'll do it, or we'll take photographs, many photographs of the class, and have a professional moving company and packing company named Corrigan come in and do it for you.
Okay. This one might need to be stated again. Can we use the video chat option on Office 365 Teams to meet with students who might need help?
Well, I think that kind of brings a lot of the same kind of Zoom issues and YouTube issues that we've already kind of talked about. So I'm going to kind of lean on those answers as well with that. I like the thought of using Office 365 because it is a collaborative and it contains all the integrated tools that we're seeing on the outside of things. But I think it's in the same kind of context as Zoom and YouTube in trying to control all your surroundings. And it doesn't have really a governing type of content filtering that YouTube as a business does, or Facebook and things like that.
Sorry if this was asked
You okay,
before.
Rod? Rod, you okay?
I'm okay. I think I'm.
We thought we heard somebody fall.
He likes Office
Oh
365.
no, I was able to get up.
Very good. we all got panicked look on our face.
Oh dear. Sorry if this was asked before. Are the cleaners working at Niagara Falls High School?
Right now, Frank Janice is working. Has worked the last 3 weeks at Niagara Falls High School. Starting this coming week, the porter will be coming in half day, like at noon to 8, along with Frank, with 2 porters. And then each week I'll start to bring 1 or 2 cleaners back for Niagara Falls High School and every school. The answer is no. The 8 or 9 scheduled cleaners are not. The custodian works. This week, the custodian and porter will work. And then next week, we'll look to bring back certain cleaners in certain areas. But Earl Smeal will give direction on that.
Could you please clarify? A week's worth of work should be submitted by Thursday of this coming week.
Yep. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. When switching to the I, P, and M grading, is there a way to put it on PowerSchool, or will we have to use a different platform to document these letter grades?
I'm not sure what the first piece is. The PowerSchool is where we store our grades. The state goes to PowerSchool for our grades. Any kind of poll state is from PowerSchool. It may be originated from another system and then entered into PowerSchool. But at the end of the day, everything has to sit in PowerSchool. I hope I answered the question.
We'll help with grading. We'll help.
Another question, will long-term subs be paid for Easter break?
Long-term subs. Everyone that was paid, subs that you worked with Mrs. Massaro will continue. Subs that weren't, won't. So yeah, long-term subs, I think we pretty much are paying all along, meaning I'm out and Ray's in for me. Yeah, Ray will get paid, or it would have been assumed that I wouldn't have returned and Ray would have been in for me. Ray would get paid. question for Ms. Massaro, though, if you're not sure, because there's so many nuances and specific situations that come with that.
Yeah, and going along with that, I have a question. Are we sticking with the IPM for grades? And are we sure we can enter an M? He said, I tried and it didn't work.
Probably not. I made that up. Probably not, because I made it up along the way. Only because I wanted to show reinforcement for somebody who did really great work. You know, P and I's probably we'll address that. And I made that up.
Thank you. We got about another half hour here, guys. Go ahead.
I'm just hitting my stride. Gene, I'm just hitting my stride here.
Okay, good.
Should we assume that the usual district-wide 40-week math, social, and science tests at the elementary level will not be given since our instruction will look a little different?
Just hold on that. If we were to come, you know, it's okay. The realistic answer is probably, but can we hold if we came back? I know it's unrealistic. May 8th or May 12th or May 15th, I may have a different answer. You know, that's all dependent on when we return. Now, do I think we're coming back April 30th? Probably not. If we did, then that question would be no, we're going to do the tests. But each week that we're out puts more and more doubt into the answer that we're going to carry on with that.
One teacher has commented on YouTube and the discussion we've been having. It says you can disable comments on YouTube videos so students cannot put anything inappropriate underneath. I'm not sure that was the exact thing that we were talking about, but it's good to know that as well.
Yep.
Raj?
And again, on a similar note, asking whether or not teachers can use the video conference functions inside the Office 365 instead of Zoom.
Yes. Again, you have to be mindful of your audience and any sort of video delivery. It's going to be very difficult to manage that. I know I repeat myself. I'm hopefully giving some information that's helpful, but it's kind of a very broad subject. I think we have to kind of stay consistent with our answer on video type of software.
Next question. Students are asking if they can print finished work and return it to the school. It would be easier for them.
Students can print. Students can.
Hold on to it.
Yeah. Here's what I want. Here's what I don't want. I finished an assignment, put it in an envelope, drop it in the school. God, we're not that good yet. So I would tell students, hang on to your work, print it out, put it in an envelope, put your name on it, and then they can return it at a time when we'll have a student drop-off basket set up. So yes, they can print it out, but don't drive up or walk up to the school every day with a different assignment. Get a big manila envelope, put your name on it, divide it up, and turn it in. I think that's a really good question for students, and I think that's something that I should address on my all call, because there are kids who really, really, really care about their work and getting it graded and having it count. So I love that question, but please don't do it. And then it begs the earlier question about the health factors of that. And I don't know if Dr. Civaroli Fauci is on this call, but we'll have to take a look at that. But that is a good call, good kind of good information for me to do on the all call.
Go ahead, Raj.
And what would be the best way to provide office hours so parents and students can ask questions? What platform or site should we use?
I'm not sure. I know we know how to collectively answer that question. I like the idea of office hours a lot. I really like it, but I don't have a further answer on the platform to post it. Ray's writing it down and something to discuss behind the scenes. Yeah. Rick's saying a couple of weeks ago I said Zoom, but not anymore. So we're making note of the question. I love the question. I just don't have a good answer.
I'm going to drop down the list a little bit, Gene.
Yeah, we are starting to get some
Repetition?
sort of repetition. Yeah. Is there a deadline for students that received an I grade for the 30-week mark to do up?
No, not under these circumstances. Again, when I was principal, it was about a 3-week deadline. I would ask teachers to look at the work, and I would tell students, you got a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm not putting a deadline under these circumstances.
Okay. Do you see anything new that needs to be brought up right now?
Gene, are you eating a Kit Kat bar? What was that?
I was typing.
Oh,
I was
sounded like
typing
a
a response.
Yeah, we're going through. A lot of them have been answered in one form or another.
This is not the end of the responses. Every time, Roger and Gene, you send me the feedback, I'll try to look at the questions and answer them either in YouTube or auto dialer, or ask Rick to put them out in an FAQ. So just because we don't get to them tonight, or somebody has a question, send it. You guys on the feedback loop. Gene, this is about the time when you have that nice public service announcement. Like in 1 hour, you'll be getting a survey.
You've got that memorized.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to remind you've broken another record tonight.
What? Oh God, what is that?
I think this is the longest webinar as well. I believe.
Hey,
and that's good. And that's good. People have questions.
Well, I'm so proud that 3 weeks in a row, 300 people came on here.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Okay.
You know, next Sunday's Easter. I'm willing to come on, unless people have things that they need to do. I'm not sure what I'll be doing. Probably not a lot, but I'm willing to come on, and I'm willing to come on. I'm willing to come on during the week too. I really am. I just.
Well, why don't we discuss? You tell us what you would like to do, and we will put it out there. We'll advertise it. And
right now, I'm willing to come on next Sunday. I can't
right.
speak for Rick and Ray. I'm willing to come on, and you two guys, but I don't want to impose on your time.
Yeah, really. I mean, maybe we can have the Easter Bunny as well.
I'm still looking for eggs from last year, so I hope to get them all collected by the time next week rolls around.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the central office team members, I won't say his name, Earl Smeal, likes those marshmallowy peeps things.
Oh yeah.
I got to bring him the marshmallow peeps so he'll work.
I had a photo of someone doing a marshmallow roast with peeps.
Yes.
Nice. This is when we get punchy, guys.
Yes.
Let me just talk about serious. Back to serious business.
Certainly.
Video use software with students. Zoom, YouTube, 365. You know, those were really good questions. There's just so many variables, so many variables that we're not really built for yet. So I want to hedge on the side of saying stay away.
Okay.
Zoom, YouTube, Office 3. I know, hey, if history has taught us anything, nothing's impossible. But when we're dealing with students, I always want to land on the side of caution. And Zoom, which has been proven now, YouTube came up a lot tonight, Office 365, some feature. I want to guide you on being overly conservative and cautious, which I tend not to be, but in those areas, especially because we're talking about students, I'm going to ask you to stay away until we vet this a little bit more.
Okay. And with that, should we do that public service announcement?
Yes.
Okay, and thank you very much again. Thank you for attending. As you probably know by now, in 1 hour there will be a thank you email sent out, and also contains your certificate for attending if you want to download it. But inside is a survey that you can click on, and if you have any further questions or concerns for Mr. Laurie, we will get them together and send them to Mr. Laurie. And then I hope you will consider joining us next Sunday. We'll be here, same time, same channel.
Yeah, same time, same channel. You know, all the records I'm breaking, I get a certificate from you, Roger and Gene, and I hang them in the office. I hold them up in the office. And, you know, longest webinar, most people, most boring, most I don't knows. You know, I get a lot of great certificates from you guys. It's awesome. They're going in my resume.
Okay. Okay. Uh-oh. Somebody said,
All right.
somebody
We're
said
getting-
Tiger King is sounding pretty good right about now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gene Exotic, we're gonna call you.
Okay. And-
Roger is a good friend of Carol Baskin. See, I'm getting punchy.
Okay.
Okay.
And with that, we'll say thank you for joining us. Good night, everybody.
Good
Have a
night.
good week. Stay safe, stay healthy. And as Mr. Loy says, wash your hands. And we hope to see you next week.
Good night, everybody.